Hello, this is Cryptolyze. I hope you are well. On this Tuesday, 14 November 2023, we meet today to talk about Atom, the crypto from Cosmos. So, as usual, we're going to dissect this video into two parts. A fundamental part, we are going to come back to what Cosmos is, the role of Atom, current events, because there is still quite a bit of it. And then, we will project ourselves on the prices for purchase prices, sale prices, medium, long term. And it starts right away. As a reminder, you always have the possibility of having free access to the educational course, which is a 60-hour training course worth €400, which allows you to learn blockchain, crypto, investment, technical analysis, trading, everything to become profitable. Through 130 videos, 400 pages of guides, quizzes to find out where you are in your progress, and all for free. To have access to this lifelong training, simply use the platform of one of our partners. Everything is explained in the comments and descriptions. What is Cosmos? So Cosmos is a Layer 1 blockchain that allows you to execute smart contracts. It's something that provides developers with pieces of code, simplifications, and Legos to be able to directly build decentralized applications. So to go a little further, Cosmos is not just a Layer 1, it is also a Layer 0, what we call the Cosmos SDK, which is the Cosmos Development Kit, which allows you to build applications using Cosmos functional bricks. So we can create applications, but especially app chains, which are in fact blockchains that revolve in the Cosmos ecosystem. And that's really the strength of Cosmos, and that's why we actually had a really big explosion at one point. Of application. Because precisely we had the Cosmos SDK, which made it very easy to build a blockchain with very low fees, with less than 1 cent of dollars per transaction, a purpose which is rather consistent with 7 seconds. Well, that now it is no longer within the standards. Currently, we are no longer around 2 seconds in terms of finality, and all in proof of stake. So, to go a little further, behind Cosmos, there is the notion of IBC. IBC, which is their interconnection protocol, and which makes it possible to interface, in fact, all the app chains, all the blockchains which have been built using the Cosmos SDK. A bit in the same representation, we are going to have the Cosmos Hub, which is located here in the middle, and all the areas here are going to be the different applications, the different app chains, different application blockchains in which we are going to have, in fact, a form of interoperability through the IBC protocol, which makes it possible to interface between the different hubs, between the different blockchains, and directly the bridges which have been made at the hub level. That is to say that the hub, therefore Cosmos, takes care of building bridges to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, to AVAX, to all the large blockchains which are not standardized IBC because, in fact, from the moment when it is built on the Cosmos SDK, we can use the IBC and therefore behind. Implied, we can transfer cryptos from one blockchain to another without asking too many questions. Ultimately, the desire is to go even further, to facilitate the sharing of protection, which is the use of nodes from other blockchains to actually be able to protect your own blockchain. It has already started with the Cosmos Hub, which lends its nodes to be able to validate transactions other than that of Cosmos, which is rather positive. And on the side, we will in fact have an ecosystem which will be relatively developed. This is an image, but it has almost doubled since I took the screen, and that was 9 months ago. And to know that we find small ones like Injective, which are there like Fetch, we have some big projects which are running and which are being talked about a lot at the moment, and it is rather positive for the whole of the Cosmos blockchain. On the other hand, next to Cosmos, we, yes, have the IBC, but we also have the big question of the role of Atom in Cosmos. Atom is inflationary, we know it. You have to put your atoms on chain to be able to have access to the different airdrops of app chain launches. It's where it's the most profitable, yes, but that prevents we still have a big inflation and a role of atoms which still remains relatively weak in the entire ecosystem. Something that is currently being considered at the level of the Cosmos ecosystem to try to refocus atoms as being an essential player in all the different app chains through. For example, why not? Shared security. There are other vectors which are under discussion, but that does not prevent us from having work carried out on them and which could be fed in particular by the IBC. The IBC, which is this notion of interchain which allows interchain communications and directly to interface with the rest, because I remind you that from the moment Cosmos and the Cosmos Hub can interface with, for example, Avalanche and interface the IBC with Avalanche, this implies that all other Blockchains that are IBC can have direct, instantaneous access to it, directly in the code. And that is really very important, and it allows us to have a form of uniformity, which is precisely the strength of Cosmos. Next to it, we have the Celestia project, which was launched on Cosmos. Celestia Large Blockchain, which has attracted a lot of attention, which is the first 100% modular blockchain, which allows each of the functional bricks of the blockchain to be broken down, and therefore which allows to have real modularity depending on what we want. Build. Next to us we have Cosmos, which has published a huge roadmap, so I took a few small parts, but what you have to understand is that clearly 2024 is going to be very, very heavy in terms of development at Cosmos level. We really have a lot of things, and you are on two vectors. One, the notion of interconnection. So that is to say, always this notion of interchain, and in which there is really an improvement which will be made to really be able to facilitate the notion of layer 0 and sublayer/overlayer between the two, and which would really make it possible to have a completely interoperable ecosystem. So that's really a big point. The second big point for 2024 will be the notion of scalability and the fact of redoing a piece of the code that they have already done, what we call technical debt, because obviously Cosmos SDK is of the oldest blockchain development SDKs. So there are things to modify, things that they are working on, and a priori 2024, we will have a new version which will be pimped, heard perhaps even a reduction in transaction purposes or a reduction in costs. This is to be expected. And the last thing is that they are clearly working on zero knowledge proof to prepare for implementation in the SDK, something which is essential to be able to ensure the continuity of Cosmos over the next 5 years. Clearly the ZK proof will be a new standard, I am convinced of it. We will finish in the fundamental part, and we will attack in the technical part. Rather classic, in Cosmos, we will have an accumulation phase, a breakup phase, a retest with a wick-off reaccumulation. Then we start by making a first acceleration, retracement, second acceleration, in which we put in places a very nice distribution of wick-off, once again here with a BC, Arkansas, ST. So, and currently we are in the sign of weakness, which is the representation of an accumulation of wick-off in which we prepare, quite simply, a next AT8, which is the principle which is generally a UT followed by a UTA, therefore 2 new AT8 for the next bull run. Clearly in this accumulation zone we have a very nice lateralization which is in progress with a selling climax which was left in 13 June 2022, and then we made an AR, an ST, and a second ST. Here we have not taken the liquidity of the selling climax, so it is really only an ST. And the question is, are we going to make them lower? It's true that Atom at the moment is a little weaker than the other cryptos, and does not have this resemblance of enthusiasm, because next to it we have a downward pressure, which is relatively strong, and we have an ecosystem which is working a lot. I think it's a protocol that still remains very, very strong. And technically we still haven't broken above June 5th here, June 5th, which was the SEC's announcement that they were certainly going to pursue a certain number of cryptos for being a securities, and therefore all the altcoins took their slap. And this is also the case for Atom, in which we went to retest, but we were swallowed up, and we did not manage to consolidate above, which is a real shame. I would have liked to see a Cosmos really rework above like that and leave. There we would have had a signal which would be very bullish. There, unfortunately, it's very complicated, the fact that we are rejected, and so strongly while we have a market which is relatively bull. This implies that there is a good chance of going to retest at least the 7.7 for me here in a potential strengthening zone. If we ever see that we have a general market which retraces, at that point we can go and retest and redo the STB. And taking into consideration that we could retest them, why not with an Atom below $6? So that to keep in mind for forecasts, if we ever go back, it will be a price to buy. At least personally a price that I will buy. Then we are in a future perspective with a Wave 2, Wave 3, Aliatus for the next bull run. So that implies, behind a big wave of impulse for me who will do a new ATH with a target of 1.618 classic Fibonacci extension to fetch the $76, which is rather classic in terms of target for a big wave 3 at the end of the bull run. Obviously for that the project must continue to be developed, that there is no problem, that there is an ecosystem which continues to grow with alongside a much more valued role of the Atom within. The entire ecosystem, And there at this moment there, we will really have something that risks pushing very high, very strong, and that is a little bit what we are aiming for when we are looking for cryptos in particular, and in particular Atom, and a project like Cosmos. I hope you liked this video. If so, don't forget to leave me a like and a comment. It always makes me very happy, and above all, it supports the work I have done. Every day, and we'll meet again tomorrow, 7 o'clock, for the daily to come back to the macroeconomics, come back to the new cryptos, and obviously analyze what happened all day and the forecast for the day to come.